وأحيط بثمره فأصبح يقلب كفيه على ما أنفق فيها وهي خاوية على عروشها ويقول يا ليتني لم أشرك بربي أحدا. Suwratul-Kahfi, Surah number 18, ayat number 42. And Uhita was surrounded, it's the passive, bi thamarihi, his fruit, and his fruit was surrounded. Okay, so what has happened now in this verse is, and we will explore the full verse, that the curses which the poor man had blurted out towards the rich man had come to fruition. And so the fruits, remember the gardens and the fruits, all of it was now destroyed. So that is what is being referred to in this verse now. And his fruit was surrounded. And just as in the English language we have the fruit and the fruit of his labor in metaphorical terms, in similarly in the Arabic language, something similar is implied over here. So more than the loss of his fruit, it was the fruit of his labor that is being specially hinted at the beginning of this verse. And his fruit of labor was surrounded. And in a more free-flowing English, it would be, and the fruit of his labor, and the fruit of his labor, and the fruit of his labor. But the construct-wise, this is sort of literal translation, and his fruit of labor was surrounded. But we understand what we are saying, and the fruit of his labor was surrounded. So, asbaha, the same root word we were referring to in the previous two verses, is coming again. So, asbaha is he began. He began. Yuqallibu. Now, so asbaha means to become, something like that. So he began. You will understand why your translators began instead of become. It becomes clear, and I'll explain the brackets as well. You be with me. Yuqallibu, twisting. Yuqallibu, twisting, like this, twisting. When you see a calamity, that's what you do, twisting. So he became twisting, he became twisting. It does make sense in the English language. So he began twisting. Kaffaihi, his palms around his wrists. Where is this word repeatedly coming from then? It is coming from because of the pattern, yukallibu. There is a shadda on the lam, this pattern. Fa'ala, fa'ilu. So that pattern itself indicates a repetition. It's interesting, the Arabic language. The sarf indicates certain add-on meanings which are intuitive. So the repetition of lam indicates, in this case, that the act was being repeated. See how it's interesting? He began twisting his palms around his wrists repeatedly. So we do something when calamity happens, befalls us, right? Similar thing the rich man is now experiencing. Ala is usually translated as on, but here because of ma what? Anfaka, he had invested fihi in it, in the farmland, in the gardens. So that is what is being referred to over here, because of what he had invested in it. Now, if you just read this part without the brackets, it would seem a little bit sort of disconnected from the previous verses. And his fruit was surrounded. So he began twisting his palms around his wrists repeatedly because of what he had invested in it. Now, if we take into it the additional nuance, so asbaha, the morning, that connotation, the dawn, that connotation, the secondary meaning, how do we incorporate that into our sentence? So, fa is so, asbaha, let's introduce that in the bracket. The result of the curse had come to pass before dawn. So before dawn, so the curse was before dawn, you'll find it in ruins. Before dawn, you'll find it in ruins. So in both the cases. And then when he came to his garden at morn to see it ruined, he began twisting his palms around his wrist repeatedly because of what he had invested in it. Wahiya. This vaw is vaw halia, so it's like a while or as I've translated over here. As fits better in this context, as here it haviyatun, as it lay desolate because of its collapsing in, ala on urushiha, its trellises, because of its collapsing in on its trellises. So desolate and collapsing, both the meanings I've tried to capture. for khawiyatun, and that's how I have constructed this sentence. As it lay desolate because of its collapsing in on its trellises. And I'll explain this part a little bit more, but let's complete the first. Let's complete first the full verse. Wa yaqulu, and if you say and he says, it does make sense. So this is a vow which is and it's connecting the previous vow halia. So you translate and saying. So he is doing something, and along with that he is something else. And saying. So as it lay desolate, and saying, وَيَقُولُ, and saying, Ya laytani, oh me, would that. So the Ya laytani is difficult to translate. So it expresses despair, hopelessness. That thing is coming out now. Ya laytani, oh me, would that. Lam is no, ushrik is had associated as partners, birabbi, with my Lord, ahadan, anyone. So to connect the full sentence, we would have to, would that I had not. So I'm introducing the lam now, the negation. Would that I had not. So lam pushes the meaning to the past tense. We know that. Lam. Would that I had not associated anyone as partners with my Lord. That's how you connect it in the English language. And I've explained this construct before. So the part is, what's it talking about when it says that as it lay desolate? So as it lay desolate, so this is Valhalia. So he's seeing, and when he's seeing, simultaneously he's seeing it in ruins. And simultaneously he is saying, oh me, ya laytani. So these simultaneous events are being described. So what is it now? As it lay desolate because of its collapsing on its trellises, what is talking about? So you see the structure of the farmland, and the two gardens besides the canal was there, and the farmlands were grape vineyards. And to protect the vineyards, there was a line of date palm trees. So the date palm trees, which is supposed to protect the vineyards, the grape vineyards, that itself collapsed on its trellises. So what is supposed to protect became the cause of its ruin. So that is what. It's a wonderful construct. It's actually expressing the emotions, how it's all coming about. So that is that. And one more interesting thing is that where did, if I may ask you the question, show me a single statement of the rich man where he actually openly, blatantly committed shirk. You will not find that in that story till now. You won't. So basically, the fact that he was giving his nafs, his ego, precedence more than the trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what is now being referenced as shirk. And he is acknowledging that. Forget about anyone saying that now. He is acknowledging that. Oh me, would that I had not associated anyone as partners with my ego. So all his ego, everything is now collapsed along with his fruits and the fruit of his labor. So the fruit is an okay translation, his fruit, but the fruit of his fruit of labor, that is the more important and significant connotation which is being highlighted over here. So I think this should be clear. Let's just read it once more to appreciate this. There is an element of sadness and sorrow and apologetic sort of sense. He wants to say sorry, but now it's too late, right? It's too late. وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمَرِهِ فَأَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ عَلَى مَا أَنْفَقَ فِيهَا وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا وَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. And the fruit of his labor was surrounded. So the result of the curse had come to pass before dawn, and then when he came to his garden at morn to see it ruined, he began twisting his palms around his wrist repeatedly, because of what he had invested in it, as it lay desolate because of its collapsing in on its trellises, and saying, oh me, would that I had not associated anyone as partners with my Lord. And when I read it for the last time, you'd have noticed I read it, and the fruit of his labor was surrounded. That's because that's the intended meaning, though I have kept this as the translation because it's a more literal translation. It's not a slip of the tongue. And I've explained all of this. So that's about this verse, and we'll proceed with the next verses in the subsequent sessions, inshallah.